In this episode of Games and Grub, we take a look at The Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time's darker sequel, The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, and the Battle of the Baked Goods.
Hello everybody and welcome to Games and Grub. We're your hosts Jess.
Hello.
And Bennett. And today we're going to be talking about Majora's Mask and the Battle of Cake versus Pie. So buckle up everyone, it's coming at you fast.
Hello everybody and welcome in. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite games of all time. I still don't know if it's my favorite, but yeah, we're going to be talking about Majora's Mask today, and it's going to be quite exciting. This game was originally released in,
2000.
2000, thank you. I couldn't think of that. But yeah, it was released in 2000. It is the sequel to Ocarina of Time, I think, is basically what it is. But it's, I don't know. Well, we'll get into it in a second. But yeah, it's such a good game.
Yeah,
I don't know how to start. I'm stumbling.
No, you're good. Like Ocarina of Time, it was re-released many times. So it was released in 2000, and interestingly enough, Ocarina of Time had 5 years of development, and this game, Majora's Mask, started off as a kind of like a special edition of Ocarina of Time, or an expansion, and it was called Ura Zelda. And then one of the main developers, who's kind of in charge of Zelda now, his name is Eiji Aonuma, he was kind of not happy with the way the direction of that game was going, and so he decided he wanted to make his own new Zelda game. And the big cheese at Nintendo, Miyamoto, at least the creative big cheese, told him he could go for it. He had 1 year to use the same engine and all the same graphics and everything from Ocarina of Time to make a brand new game, and that was Majora's Mask. And I think it was finished in like 15 months, but pretty close to a year, and it's one of the greatest games of all time, and it took only a year to make, so that's pretty amazing.
It's impressive that, I'm not saying that, like, Ocarina of Time, like, this isn't meant to diss Ocarina of Time in any way or, like, make it look worse, but, Ocarina of Time, like you said, took 5 years or whatever to develop, and to, like, make the great game that it is, and it's just kind of fascinating that this game only took, you said, 15 months to develop, and I'd say it's, like, basically equal in quality to Ocarina of Time, which, I mean, there's some elements, or there's a lot of elements from Ocarina of Time in Majora's Mask, so I guess that does help. But at the same time, there's a lot of different... They had a big shortcut, but still, there's a lot of unique stuff and, like, different... There's a very different feel to it, and it's just a very different game compared to Ocarina of Time, and it only took a year, and it's just, I don't know. It seems kind of impressive, but I guess there's a lot of reused elements, which I guess helped, but yeah, it's cool. It's impressive.
Yeah, sometimes I wish they'd do that, with some of the newer games too. I mean, that is kind of similar to what they did with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, when they reused the whole open world and just added in new stuff. But I don't know, it had kind of a different feel, because Majora's Mask felt like a completely new game, even though the graphics were the same.
Well, I feel like copying the environment is a little... I haven't played Tears of the Kingdom, so I can't exactly comment on, like, how the environment of the game actually is, but from what you told me, it sounds like it's copied, or pretty dang similar to what Breath of the Wild had to offer, right? And yeah. I think where Majora's Mask is different there is that the environments are so important in these games because you're exploring a lot, like, you're going to different areas, you're seeing new characters, you're seeing new areas. It's just, exploring is a huge part of these games, and, discovering new things has to be a part of that for it to be satisfying. And I think that because Tears of the Kingdom used that, like, same or very similar open world environment that Breath of the Wild had, it just didn't have that big of an impact, or it didn't have the same impact that Majora's Mask did, because, yeah, there were reused assets in Majora's Mask, but the areas you see in Majora's Mask are not, I don't think there's anything that is, like, one-to-one for Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, right? I think it's all new areas.
No, the whole world is new. They just use the same, like, textures and characters and stuff, but they they look the same, but they are completely different characters. So,
which I want to get into that really quick. I know that like a bunch of the character models are reused from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and I think that is a common criticism of Majora's Mask, is that it reused a lot of stuff from Ocarina of Time. And I think it's fair. I think that reusing that stuff can be seen as a good criticism, like a valid criticism to the game. But I honestly feel like whenever I play Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, it's typically like right one after the other, like, you know, play Ocarina of Time and then Majora's Mask. I honestly don't really recognize that or think that as I'm playing. Like, I don't really think to myself, like, oh yeah, these are the same characters from Ocarina of Time. Like, even though they're the same character models, it's like, you're playing a different game with different characters. I never have thought, I don't think, like, about the fact that those models are being reused. It's just different characters, and the games are fantastic no matter what. It's like, yeah, you just don't give it a second thought. It's...
No, it just... it fits very well. And the other thing is, I think that the overall feel of the game is so different that you don't really get too stuck on the stuff that's the same. Like, for example, the classic Zelda story is you play as Link, you have to save the Princess Zelda, and that's like I mean, there's other elements depending on which game you're playing, but that's the overall story. But that is not even close to the story in this game, because it's a sequel, and you already did that in the first game. In this one, the moon is going to fall into the earth and destroy everything, and you only have 3 days to figure it out. And that's just such an interesting, unique story for Zelda. And I'd say, even though Ocarina of Time has time in the name, you actually do a lot more time travel related stuff in this game.
Yeah.
And you use the Ocarina of Time more often, I would say. So I think that's one of my favorite parts about this game, is all the time travel stuff. It feels like there's pressure because you only have the 3 days, but because you can just reset time to the beginning, the pressure is not even really there, but it just like fits the dark and creepy theme very well to have like a time limit on it too.
Oh, it does. And like, I think, yeah, there's 3 days as you mentioned, and I think as like, actually I can't say this for the first and second day, but I think for like the third day in Clocktown or whatever, like each day has a different theme for Clocktown, and like, you know, I think it's supposed to represent like the coming of the festival, I think is what it is, right? Is that what it is? I forget what, like...
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's a festival of some sort, I forget what it's called.
Well, yeah, it's the carnival, what is the carnival for? I'm actually not remembering.
I'm not remembering either, but...
some kind of carnival that goes on in this town.
But, yeah, basically, people are preparing for this carnival that's going to happen in 3 days, which evidently is when the moon comes crashing down. And for the first and second day, like, each day in Clocktown has its own unique theme. And the first and second day, they're different, but they're not really sinister in any way. It's just kind of like, you know, an uptone beat to, like, you know, signify what Clocktown feels like and just, like, you know, give variety or whatever. But on the third day, it still has that same, like, upbeat feel, but in the background, if you listen to the soundtrack, there's, like, a sinister tone behind it, and it's because you're on the final day and the moon is, like, really close to coming crashing down, and it's, like, that is just one of many things in the game that perfectly exemplifies, like, the sinister feel of this game, that, it's not blatant, but it's, like, a very subtle, sinister feel, because it's, like, yeah, it's trying to, you know, emphasize, like, the joyfulness, like, that's being felt throughout the town of, like, the carnival coming, but it also, like, has that looming doom that's coming from the moon coming crashing down, and it's just, that's, like, there's much more to the game, but that is one thing I love about the game that's in, because it just, like, it represents that sinister feel so much, while also, like, yeah, just keeping it really subtle. I don't know how to put it, but it's awesome.
Yeah, well, I just think the attention to detail in this game is amazing, and I think it's kind of the reason that I don't love all the open world games these days. Because they're just so focused on packing in a lot of content, but it's not always the deepest content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in this game, there aren't that many different characters or areas, but each one you want to spend a lot of time in, and you want to get to know the characters more than even in a lot of other Zelda games, because they all have, like, stories that change throughout the 3 days. Mm-hmm. And you can affect the stories by, learning new things as you go through a cycle of these days, and then reset it. Then like, this person's going to be here, this is what they need, and you can kind of insert yourself into that story and change the outcome, which helps you get items. It helps you just progress the overall story. It helps you learn things about what you're supposed to do. And there are not a lot of games that have that kind of, I don't know, it's almost like a mystery game where you're trying to, like, investigate different parts of the town and different people who live in and around the town. And I don't know, it's just a very unique game, not just in the Zelda franchise, but in just gaming overall. You don't see that very much.
Oh no, I mean, it's executed very well, and I think one of the reasons why it's done so well is the game takes place over a span of 3 days, right? Like, in Ocarina of Time, there's not really a timing system. Like, time just kind of passes, Like, there's a day-night cycle, but it's not like... Time doesn't really matter, if I'm correct on that. Like, time of day might matter for certain things, but, like, you're not keeping track of, like, dates and how many days have passed. It's like, time flows, and that's what happens in Ocarina of Time. Whereas in Majora's Mask, you have to do everything in 3 days, and you reset that 3 days whenever you need more time. So you're looking at a set period of time that isn't that long. And because of that, the characters that you see throughout the game, I would say, are probably the least NPC-like characters you would feel and see in a game. Because I don't know how to describe it, but, like, I feel like in this game, the NPCs are a lot more lively and, like, I guess just not, like, oh, I'm interacting with a computer or something, just because, like, you can basically create schedules for them because you're giving, like, the game is taking place over such a short period of time. Like, you can have characters, like, on one day be, like, constructing something, and then on the second day be, like, running a store, and then on the third day, like, fleeing the town because the moon's coming down. And that can work because it's a 3-day cycle, and you have to reset that, like, once time is far enough, or has passed enough. And instead of, like, gosh, I'm going on a tangent here. I gotta collect my thoughts. What I'm trying to say is, because there's a 3-day cycle, that doesn't mean time is infinitely passing, meaning NPCs can have busier schedules, because if you tried to do that in a game like Ocarina of Time, or, like, any other game where there's not, like, time doesn't matter as it passes, you really, like, you can't do that in those games, because you'd have to create, like, so many different scenarios, because, like, there's so many days passing, and, like, you'd have to create such busy schedules, whereas, like, because there's this short time frame in Majora's Mask, the NPCs can have busier schedules and be more, like, lively in how they behave, and I feel like Majora's Mask does NPCs so well, like, in this way, just because they can give them much more detailed schedules, given the time frame of the game. I don't know.
In a lot of games, it feels like the NPCs are there just for you, and they're just kind of waiting around for you to come up and talk to them so they can give you their line that, obviously even in Majora's Mask they're pre-written, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like they're going about their own business, and you're just kind of watching them do that, and they're not just, like, sitting in one spot where they're always going to be. I mean, at some point you know where they're going to be because you're traveling back in time, but it's not like most games where they just never move from that spot and they always say the same thing. It's like they react to what's happening as time goes by, and so they're much more part of the story. Like, every character in the game is part of the story, whereas in a lot of Zelda games, they're kind of just a side character, and it doesn't really, you could completely skip them and not miss anything. But I don't feel like that's how it is in this game. I
feel like you said that a lot better than I did. I could not like piece that together, and then you just basically what you said is what I think. I just could not spit that out.
That's okay. The other thing, this isn't exactly Zelda related, but we've been discussing it recently, is I'm curious how, like, I don't know if AI is there yet, but when AI improves a little bit more, I feel like you could kind of do this sort of thing with AI where characters almost think for themselves. They're not pre-programmed to do something. Maybe there's like some boundaries on what they can do, but they can kind of like react to what you're doing, react to how the world has changed based on what you're doing, and almost generate new responses and new schedules and stuff. I think developers are going to have to be pretty careful, because there's a lot of problems with AI, for one thing. And the other thing is, you still want it to be a consistent experience. Like, you don't want to, if you replayed the game, you don't want it to be so different that you can't even, like, revisit what you liked about that game, because it's completely regenerated. I don't know if that makes sense.
It's almost like you're playing a new, or it would almost be like you're playing a new game every time you play the game, which sounds like a good thing. Like, that could be a good thing, but if you get like a good iteration and then revisit the game, you're not going to be playing that again. I mean, maybe you get really lucky and you do, but if AI is constantly like creating new material and just generating new content, it's not going to be the same experience. So that would be like a flaw that they'd have to work around somehow, but it could be.
They'd have to put a ton of limits. I mean, maybe it's just like they want the NPC to play to say something generally the same, but they have just different ways that they can say that thing, so it kind of feels fresh each time, but it's the same idea. I don't know. It could be interesting. Maybe Zelda's not the right franchise to be experimenting with that, but in some games it might be pretty cool. But anyway, I still think that the like pre-scripted schedules might even be higher quality than that, just because they're like curated. They're already known to be like a good story, whereas it's not just out of the blue. But anyway, this is a lot of sidetrack stuff, but it's just really cool how the NPCs are almost more alive feeling than a lot of games that are even released today, and this game is 24 years old.
Yeah, and I think I don't know why I do this with games, but I might be comparing Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask a lot during this, and it's not to say that one is better than the other. They're both great experiences, but I guess I want to say that, like, I feel like in Ocarina of Time, it feels like the game is very centered around you as the hero, because like you said, NPCs are waiting for you, and it's not like they've been waiting for you. It's like they're sitting still waiting to be interacted with. And it's like, okay, the game is just waiting for me, the player, to do stuff. And that's, like, there's nothing wrong with that. But I feel like in Majora's Mask, when you're thrown into the game, it's like, I am thrown into a town and nobody's waiting around for me. This is like a functioning town everybody has their own schedule. Like, I'm just here trying to stop what's going on. And, like, nobody's waiting for, like, to interact with me. Everybody has their own schedule. And it's like, I feel like that's what makes it much more lively in the game, is like, it doesn't feel like the game is waiting to be played. It's like, you're in the situation, it feels realistic, like, you don't, like, nobody's waiting around, everybody's got their thing to do, you gotta get moving to see what's going on. And then that's what makes the time, that's what makes the ability to rewind time so satisfying, is because, like, you can see certain schedules through one playthrough the 3 days, and then once you rewind time, you can go back and see other sections, and eventually you just, like, accumulate all of these different stories, and it's like, wow, this is really detailed. There's so much that you can't see in one, like, playthrough the 3 days, and resetting just lets you see, like, so many different perspectives and stories that you can do, and it's what makes the game so lively. It's awesome.
Yeah, I definitely go back and forth between Ocarina of Time and this game. When it comes to my favorite, I think Ocarina of Time probably wins still, maybe just because it was the first one I played. But this one is a close second for sure. It almost feels like it's both. You kind of have to just take them both. It is a sequel. It's like the same story. You know, obviously there's more Zelda games, but these ones are even more connected than most of them. So I feel like it's fair to take them as a package. But go ahead.
Yeah, take them as a package. I also feel like they could be considered like not same games, but it's like they feel like the same game, but it's almost like Majora's Mask kind of like altered some of like the strengths and weaknesses to the game. Like, I feel like the dungeons in Majora's Mask are notably worse compared to Ocarina of Time. They're not bad. Just Ocarina of Time, I feel like the feel of the dungeons and the overall layout of the dungeons is a lot more enjoyable. But I feel like Majora's Mask got that worse, but I feel like a lot of the side stuff in Majora's Mask is a lot better compared to Ocarina of Time. So it's almost like the games are the same quality, it's just a few things have been adjusted to be a little bit weaker and a little bit stronger, but it doesn't make the experience worse in any way. It's just a new take on like a similar experience in Majora's Mask, if that makes sense. Like, you can't really say one is better than the other, I don't think. Like, they both have their strengths and weaknesses, and I just think they're kind of equal quality, just with different defining features, if that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have some ideas for some potential Switch 2 remakes, but we can discuss that after today's delicious Grub Report. Today, as Jess let you all know in the intro, we are doing the Battle of the Baked Goods, which is pie versus cake, or cake versus pie, whichever way you prefer. I don't know if it's actually really a battle for me.
It very well could turn into a battle. I kind of thought this was an interesting prompt because this is a question I've kind of like thought about in the past a little bit. I haven't given it too much thought, but I've kind of had it pop up in my head a couple times in the past, and I thought I'd throw it in here today. And I haven't given it much thought, to be honest, but I think I know where I stand. Just because I think I know where I stand. I'll have to go into it and think about it a little bit more as we go. But yeah, I feel like it's a good like argument or debate. Maybe not, it may not even be a debate or argument, but I feel like it's a good thing to look at because I feel like cakes and pies are both like widely loved dessert categories, but I want to see what we think in regards to one being better than the other. You know, like, what do we like better and why? I thought it would be a good discussion for our Grub Report.
Yeah, well, it's a tough one because even those categories you can break down a little bit further because like pies, for example, you got kind of like Pop-Tarts, you got your fruit pies, and then there's like chocolate pies or banana. I guess banana cream is in the middle a little bit, but peanut butter cream and that kind of stuff. So you can break those down. And then there's cake, where you got like birthday cake, or there's other stuff like Angel's food cake, which I know you absolutely despise.
Is that
or strawberry shortcake, I guess.
Yeah. And I will get into that in a second. I have a very opinionated opinion about that. I'm very opinionated about what I feel about this, but yeah.
Well, why don't you tell us? What, first of all, between pie and cake, overall, what do you prefer?
Well, I want to clarify before we get into this too deep. At least in my eyes, and I'm pretty certain you agree with me here, we are not including, like, savory pies here. We're not talking, like, shepherd's pie. We're talking about exclusively dessert pies, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would very much change the conversation if that was included.
But okay. I think overall this could change. I think I have to say that I think cake is better. But, I think the reason why that is, though, is because, I will be honest, I'm not a fan of, like, a lot of actual fruit being in dessert. Like, I don't like having actual, like, blueberries, strawberries, or, like, just actual hunks of fruit in my dessert, and I can't tell you why. It's just, like, it typically ruins the texture of the fruit, usually. Like, I like bananas and strawberries, like, plain on their own. Like, texture's great, taste is great. But then when you incorporate them into a dessert, like, bananas become, I hate to say it, like, slimy, and kind of just... I don't know if they offer, like, the best taste when it comes to a dessert, in my opinion. And then, like, strawberries become, like, more mushy. And it's, like, I don't really want that in a dessert. Like, pies can taste pretty good, but it's like, usually fruit pies are pretty bad in my opinion. I think chocolate cream pie is one of the few pies I actually enjoy, like chocolate cream pie. Banana cream might be good. I don't know if there's actual... I forget if there's actual chunks in banana cream, but I think I like banana cream if there's not. But there's not a lot of pies I like. Whereas cake, it's pretty hard to go wrong with cake.
Yeah, but you have to tell me this. What is it about the cake? Is it the cake or is it the frosting?
Oh, I mean, I will say I am a frosting guy, and frosting is pretty heavy on cakes, so I think I mean, that may be cheap, that may not be the actual cake, but I consider frosting to be a part of cake, so therefore I feel like cake is better. But even then, actually I don't know. Are we doing like bare cake, like no frosting compared to pie, or are we doing like cake with frosting compared to pie? Because I feel like frosting is almost a part of cake.
I'd just say, yeah, I mean, it's just the best version to you of cake, I guess.
Has frosting.
Versus the best version of pie.
Like, I guess there are cakes that may not have frosting, which are not good, in my opinion. But, yeah, in its best form, cake is significantly better than pie, in my opinion. Oh, but there's pumpkin pie. I forgot. No, cake is still better. Pumpkin pie I love. That's another one I love. But I gotta say, cake I think still takes it.
Yeah, for me, it's not as much of a battle. It's not... They're not the same thing to me, so I can't say I don't like one or the other. I really, really like pie. I think a cherry pie is just incredible. Also... Are we including ice cream in the consumption of these things? Because it really changes the game.
I don't know. Because I almost feel like the ice cream is a separate thing, but if you think we should include it, we probably can. I don't know.
But it changes my opinion.
Well, get
if
both
I eat
opinions
ice
then.
cream
Get both...
with pie, I might choose pie over cake.
Okay.
If I have to eat them plain... It's a little less clear to me, but I just like them both so much. I don't actually think I'm as big of a fan of frosting as you are, though. I like a little bit, especially if it's chocolate icing, but I can't take a lot of the like regular birthday cake icing. It tastes just like pure sugar, and it's too much to me. And I almost need the cake part to like balance out how sweet the frosting is. So I'm not a fan of like a corner piece of cake because I'd rather have more of the actual cake part. And I think it's easier to mess up the cake part than it is to mess up a pie, because if you make the cake dry and you don't have ice cream to help with that, it's not very enjoyable, at least in my opinion. I don't want to eat dry cake. I'd rather have a pie, even without ice cream. Just because the fruit part is always going to be, like, moist, and gooey and stuff, and I like that. And I think it goes well with the crust. It's a nice balance, and it's not overly sweet. But I will say, there are some cakes that I really like, too. Cake, like chocolate cake is my favorite. You gotta have chocolate cake with chocolate icing and chocolate chips on the outside of that, and it's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
But even then, I like some raspberry sauce on that. I really don't like the fruit. But I basically just described P.F. Chang's Great Wall of Chocolate, except they make their cake really dry, at least at our P.F. Chang's, so...
Okay,
dry
here's
cake,
the thing, though. Good. That raspberry stuff doesn't actually... Well, and even if it did actually have raspberries in it, that might be one. Raspberries might be a fruit where it's okay to be in the dessert. It depends upon the quality of the raspberries. You just
don't like chunks, is what you're saying.
The chunks is what I don't like. If you... like, in the case of the P.F. Chang's thing you just described, I would be fine with that. The fruit stuff tastes good.
So this explains why you do like fruit Pop-Tarts then, because there's no chunks in fruit
There's no
Pop-Tart.
chunks, but it's fruit flavoring. I don't dislike fruit flavoring, it's the chunks that make it bad. Sometimes I will say pie overdoes like the fruit flavor, I feel like in the, I don't even know what you say, like the gel or like the filling or whatever. Like sometimes it's a little bit too much for me, but still. It's good. If it, I don't know. It's good, but I don't know if it matches up to cake. I will say, I think a good way to put it, like when comparing the two, is pie is more consistent in quality, whereas cake is not, but I feel like cake can reach a higher quality than pie in that range, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just don't know if I can agree. I really think pie can hold its own. I think a nice cherry pie is just fantastic. And sometimes it's like depends on when I'm eating them, what are the conditions, you know? If it's like really cold out, I'd rather have a warm piece of pie. You know, for a birthday, maybe a piece of cake makes more sense. But I think I have had pie for a birthday before. So it's all just about the feeling for me. I'm more likely to go for a piece of pie than a piece of cake just on your average day though. So I have to stick with pie on that one. And I also have to say I am more of a fan of the fruit pies than the different kind of cream ones like chocolate silk or peanut butter cream or banana. Banana's a tough one. I do like banana, but that's also fruit, so whatever, you know. I like the fruit ones.
I don't know. It's just, I guess it's too much fruitiness for me or something, but like, I guess I only like fruit flavor up to a certain extent because there are, I forget what it's called. What's the thing we get that's like a ring pastry that has like fruit filling?
A Kringle?
A Kringle, thank you. That has fruit filling, but it's mainly like breading and then has some frosting on the outside. That is like the perfect ratio of like fruit filling to like the regular sugariness and like the breading. Like that works, but I feel like a pie takes it a bit too far for me, and it has the fruit chunks, which doesn't help. So I think cake is better, but I do want to say really quick, I want to go off on a little rant here. I do not think that strawberry shortcake, and then what was the other one you said?
Angel food
Cake, thank you. Both of those are perhaps some of the worst types of cake, and I'm not saying they're like inedible. I'm just saying like
no,
they're the most disappointing in my opinion, because it's like when you expect a cake, I guess I'm expecting like a nice like sugary treat that has like plenty of sugar, like it's got plenty of sweetness to it. And when you take a bite out of one of those cakes, one, it's missing it. Like, I know you can put frosting on them, but usually they're missing frosting. And two, it's like the cake itself is so delicate and like, I guess not that flavorful that it's like, this really isn't that good. And I guess it's kind of fruit flavoring in the case of strawberry shortcake, but it's like,
but
it's just too delicate for it to work.
That's why it's so good, is it's like a sponge that sucks up the strawberry juices.
But it's so delicate though. I guess it's too delicate for me to enjoy. Like I don't know. In my opinion, that's just one of the worst types of cake. It's too delicate in flavoring, and it's not worth it to be a dessert item, in my opinion.
Well, that's a fair enough opinion, even though it's garbage. But what would you say is your favorite place to get a nice piece of cake and a piece of pie if you're gonna have pie?
Well, you mentioned P.F. Chang's. That's a really good place. I love their cake there. I will say, this is a discussion for another time, but I will briefly mention P.F. Chang's has fallen off in terms of other stuff. Like, their entrees and stuff I'm not a fan of anymore, but their Great Wall of Chocolate has always been delicious. I will say, also, this is gonna be really weird, but Costco, they have some cakes with some pretty dang good frosting. I think that might be one of my favorites. So, either P.F. Chang's or Costco is a good place to get some cake.
Okay. And pie?
What about you? Oh, pie? I forgot about the pie. Usually, I don't really go for pie, to be honest, that often, so usually I get like
go with Marie Callender's.
Yeah, like the frozen Marie Callender's for chocolate cream, and then, if not that, I usually go for pumpkin pie at the grocery store as well. Yeah, basically, I just get my pies from a grocery store. They're good there, the ones that I like anyways. So it's either grocery store for pie, and then P.F. Chang's, and Costco for cake. But, where do you think the best stuff is for those?
Well, I used to like the P.F. Chang's cake, but I feel like its quality has really gone downhill.
Oh, even the cake has gone down? I guess I haven't had it in a long time.
Yeah, it's dry, like I said. It's way too dry.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Even with the raspberry sauce, it's too dry.
Dang.
I'll still eat it, but it's not.
Isn't that like a
top
really moist
quality.
cake too?
Nah, I don't think so.
I thought I remember that thing being like really dense and moist when you had it, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you got a good one.
I don't know.
I'd have to just say Costco is amazing. You can get a pretty good cake there, and also Nothing Bundt Cakes is pretty good too. And for pie, I am also gonna say Costco. The only issue there is you don't really get a choice. You gotta hope they have the kind you want, otherwise you're out of luck. You just have to take whatever they're making at the time. Part of the problem is we don't really have a lot of pie places around here, which is a disgrace, and there should be more.
I could probably live without it.
I used to like Perkins because it was at least available and it was okay, but we don't even have Perkins anymore, so all I can say is Costco. Probably like a homemade pie would be the best, but I have never tried that before.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's fair.
So, that's our opinions on cake and pie.
Oh wait,
what
we
are
didn't
yours?
even give our grub rating, man. We gotta give our grub rating.
Our grub rating, yes, for each.
Okay. Let's see here. Scale of 0 to 5, yeah, as usual. Okay.
Yep.
I'm gonna go with cake. I think I'll go with like a 3.5. I'll go with the 3.5. Like it's pretty good. I wouldn't actually no. We'll go with like a 3.7 is what we'll do. 3.7 is pretty good. I wouldn't say it's like the most out of the world thing. Like I actually, Costco cake though. We're gonna go with either 3.8 or 4 in that range. It's pretty good. I'd consider it pretty good. Pie, however, it's gonna be a 3 or at best a 3.5. Like it's okay. It's middle of the road dessert, I'd say. Not gonna blow your socks up, but it's a dessert.
I'm gonna say cake is like a 3.2 for me.
Okay.
Depends on the cake. Maybe it could come up to a 3.5 if it's a real good cake. But somewhere in the low 3s. Pie is a 4 for me. Very, very good. I like pie. I could eat a lot of pie. The only thing is I'd be really fat. But sometimes you just gotta go for it.
Sometimes you gotta go for it.
Yeah,
indeed.
pie is a favorite. Pie is very good. I don't even know what the highest rating I've given on these episodes is so far, but that's gotta be one of the higher ones.
Didn't I give a 5? I may have accidentally given a 5 to something, and I should probably take that back. But I also could be lying on that. Because either I haven't gone past 4, or I gave a 5 and then have not gone past 4 since then.
I think you gave a 5, but then you took it back. You reconsidered.
Oh, yeah, okay. I think I remember that. But yeah,
So,
I don't think we've gone past 4. I think we've stayed in the 3s, mainly. We need to, like... I think for another episode, we're gonna... Yeah, we need to get one that's, like, really good, or we need to try a food that's, like, bad.
Yeah. I know what it is for me, but we'll save it for a different time.
Alright.
Anyway, let's get back to the game. Like I said before, I have some ideas for if they decided to remake this game and Ocarina of Time for the Switch 2, or whatever they're going to call it. And that has been a rumor for a while. I think it would be really cool, since these games already use the same engine and, you know, the art style is already the same and everything. They should just make a completely updated engine. They should call it like the Hero of Time collection or something, or you know, something like that, where it's related to this specific link from these games. And they should put it into one big game. They should still give you the option if you want to just skip to Majora's Mask and play that like standalone.
Like, you know,
that should
like
also be an option.
It's almost like Mario. Oh gosh, what was it called? What was the thing that they released like a couple years ago? Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy, and
well, that's
64.
the All-Stars collection. But what I'm saying is that they turn these games into like one continuous game almost. I don't know if that's a good idea. I haven't fully thought it out, but it would be really cool if, because we just see Link like in the woods, at the start of Majora's Mask. We don't exactly know what's happened between the end of Ocarina of Time and then where he gets, his horse Epona stolen. There could be some adventure in between those things that we don't even know about, and they could, it doesn't have to be a whole game, but they could make like a section in between there where it kind of like fills in some of the gaps. I don't know, it might be interesting. I mean, they've already remade these games enough that it would be cool if they added like just a little bit for the fans that have always stuck with these games. But I could also see that not working because people, don't want to change some games that are already so good. You don't want to mess it up. So I don't know what you think about that.
The mystery also might be good just because, you can kind of fill in the blanks with like what you want. But it would be cool to know what actually does happen, Like, it could go either way. I think it's an idea that has a decent amount of potential,
Yeah, like, it's just interesting to me because, like, Link has Epona as a child, which you don't get in Ocarina of Time. Like, that's not possible. So it's like, what happened? How did he get Epona? Even if it's just like a cutscene or something, that shows a little bit more. It's like, how does he get the shield that you start off with? Because it's not the Hylian shield, because it's small, but it's metal, which is also not possible to get in Ocarina of Time. How did he get out of I mean, where is he? What woods is he in? I assume it's the Lost Woods, but like, how did he actually get out of the Lost Woods from Ocarina of Time and into this new area? I don't know. And there's stuff in Majora's Mask just by itself that's really mysterious too. Like, when Link falls down inside this big tree, what is happening there? I know that's part of the intrigue of this game. Nobody knows for sure. It's like, people have theorized, did he just die there? Like, is this like the afterlife or something that's the adventure you're doing? Or did he fall into a whole nother dimension? Or is it not that deep and it's just a really deep tree? I mean,
it's a deep tree with some cool shapes, man.
It would be cool to know some of this stuff, but at the same time, I also get what you're saying. I think it's good if it's a mystery too, and people can make their own theories about it and try to figure out what's going on. So
there's potential in each thing, it just depends. Like, it really depends upon how they would execute it, because like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just up to Nintendo on like what the quality of that would be and like executing it properly. So either way could be good. It's just, Nintendo has to make the right decision, and execute it properly.
I've also heard people talking about, for Ocarina of Time, you could play through like the light temple, which is, in that game they just give you the medallion of, what is it? Is it just the light medallion?
Yeah, I think.
And originally I think that was supposed to actually be a temple that was playable, but they cut it for whatever reason. I might be getting that wrong, but it was something like that. I don't know if adding stuff like that is a good idea, where they just kind of had some plans to do something and they had to cut it because either they ran out of time or they just didn't fully realize that idea. So I don't know, that kind of stuff can be cool for people that have already played the game and are looking for something a little bit new, but it also makes me nervous. But I think they could pull it off. I just feel like the Zelda team usually pulls stuff off, and you don't have to worry too much about them messing it up.
Nintendo is a game development company that does seem to uphold quality quite well, I will say. Like, in this day and age, especially.
Well, Nintendo is, but especially the Zelda team at Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't make bad games. There are games that are worse than their other games, but even those games are so much better than everything else.
I mean, there's that, and I mean, that's just kind of natural, If if they managed to somehow make each game like equal quality, that would be insane. But yeah, I mean, yeah, there's Zelda games. I don't think there's really any that are considered bad. But like, yeah. I also, well, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something, but I lost my train of thought, so I'll come back to it if I think of it.
Okay. Well, one thing we haven't actually talked about is any of the masks, which is kind of a big deal in this game. If you haven't played this game before or heard about it, which is crazy, you should go play it if you haven't. But the main story is that there's this character called Skull Kid who found well, I won't go into the whole thing, but he finds this evil mask that kind of takes him over and starts making him do these evil things, and he's the one that's going to cause the moon to crash into the town and destroy everything. And what you also get to do yourself is find a bunch of different masks that can give you various powers. Some of them transform Link completely. There's the Deku mask, the Goron mask, and the Zora mask, and they each transform you into, each of those creatures. But there's a bunch of other masks that give you all sorts of abilities, which is really cool. Mm-hmm. And I wish they would have done more with the masks in Ocarina of Time, but we have this game, at least, so it's not a big deal. Well, what would you say are some of your favorite masks?
That's kind of a tough question. I mean, there's I think I like all of them just because, like, with each mask, I mean, there may be some where there's not a lot of depth to it, but it feels rewarding, not necessarily to receive the mask, but, like, the quests you do to get the masks feel rewarding and, like, just kind of, I guess the quest is more rewarding than the reward, because, like, I think, what is it? Yeah, the couple's mask. That's, like, the final mask you get for completing, like, one of the longest, like, side quests in the game. And it's just, like, it's cool to receive the mask, but it's more of, like, a symbol of, like, you did this quest and it was such a cool story. Like, it's a reminder of what you just went through. And I guess that's probably one of my favorites, because it's such a cool side quest, and, like, it's just a cool series of events that you go through to get that mask. And I also feel like I feel like all the masks are just good for that reason, because each one has, like, its own unique quest usually associated with it, and even if quests are shorter and less complex than others, I feel like each one is just memorable and just kind of a cool thing to experience. So I'd say I think each mask is just kind of cool. I can't say that I have favorites, maybe by design I do, but, like, each mask is kind of cool to get in its own way, just because it has its own unique path that it takes to get to it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I will say there are some masks that feel a little underused. Like, for example, the Mask of Scents, I believe. Is that the one that makes you... It's like a pig.
Yeah, it's face. Like a pig mask, and then you, like, sniff the ground.
It makes you sniff. I think all it does is give you one heart piece in the whole... Like, that's its only use, right?
I actually don't remember it. We played this past summer, and I don't think I remember using it, but I have bad memory, so I could be wrong. But I do not remember touching that mask after getting it.
Yeah, I don't actually even know what that's for. Here, I'm gonna look it up real fast. But there's some masks like that where it feels like, yeah, you're right, the actual journey to get the mask is a lot of fun, but the reward isn't actually much. And yes, the Mask of Scents literally just lets you sniff for magic mushrooms in the woods. We're not talking about drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. This is an actual mushroom, and it lets you make potions. But yeah, that is its only use, and that's really something you are never going to do. I mean, I'd never revisit that area of the game after doing it.
Oh yeah,
once for whatever you have to do it for, but
I won't deny there are a lot of masks that just have very little purpose in the game, but I feel like each mask has its own, like, aside from the quests, like the quests that lead up to the masks, I also feel like the masks themselves have very unique designs and very unique, like, descriptions and purposes described. And it's just, I feel like that kind of makes up for it, because, like, another useless mask I think is the All Night mask. You might use it for, like, one or two things, but the All Night mask is a cool one because it has a very unique design. It's like, I don't know how you'd even describe it, but it kind of looks like a black mesh with, like, red eyes or whatever.
Yeah, and it's actually a pretty, like, dark idea too.
That's what I was about to get into. Like, I have mentioned how I'm not a fan of games like getting too incredibly dark. I feel like it's when games like get really deep into it and focus on it, it's like, okay, this is kind of twisted or whatever. But in Majora's Mask, the All Night Mask is a mask that is described to, like, the wearer basically can't sleep while it's on, I think is what it is, right? Like, no matter what you do, you can't sleep.
It was like a torture device. Is that why it was designed?
I think, yeah. Which, it's a darker concept, but it's like, it doesn't get into it too much. It's just like, it's a dark concept, and it adds personality to the mask, but it's like not over the top. Just, that's what makes this game so good, is like, it's dark, but to a good extent. And like, everything in this game, especially the masks and the characters, just have like a very unique tone to each one, and like a little background that adds just enough to make them like unique and memorable. And that's kind of why I like every mask, is like, even if it's useless, it has some unique look to it and some unique description to it that gives a little detail on why it exists, And it's cool. That's why I like the masks. But
yeah, the cool thing is, like, it's a dark design for that mask, but you use it for a good thing. You use it to keep yourself awake, to listen to grandma's whole story without falling asleep. And it, like,
that's actually what you use it for. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And so, like, all these masks you actually use to help people with various things, which is cool. And some of them are just useful. Like, there's the bomb mask, which is, you just have unlimited bombs, basically. You are a bomb. And the weird thing about that is you can blow up while you're holding your shield, even though this thing is on your face. But it won't hurt you if you have your shield out, which is just like a weird quirk, but I like it. There's also the bunny hood, which is not really a mask, but it's a hood. And it makes you run extra fast and
in terms of utility, that is probably one of my favorite masks, I will say.
Yeah, it's very helpful in a game where time is limited. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, there's the Fierce Deity mask, which is just awesome.
There's actually 5 transformation masks in the game, I just realized. There's the Giant's mask and the Fierce Deities, which is
that's
crazy.
True.
But yeah, Fierce Deities is perhaps... Okay, I guess... I don't know. I like all the masks, but I guess you can definitely pick out some over the others. I'd have to give it a lot of thought, but yeah. There's probably some I like over others, like the bunny hood is very useful in-game. The design, I mean, it's kind of bunny ears. I don't know if it's my favorite design, but usefulness-wise, it is very, very good. Fierce Deities is just fun to use. It's kind of sad that you don't really use it until the final boss, but at the same time, I feel like that is actually, it's kind of a good thing. Because if you could use it on prior bosses, it would be one of the most powerful things and would make the game incredibly easy. I just feel like it's a good reward for getting every mask in the game. It's like, okay, you can have fun with the boss and just absolutely destroy him, It's just.
This is a game where it feels like when you put in a lot of work and time to get everything, it actually rewards you for it, which some games don't. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the game you get to, well, I guess it's a spoiler, but if you've listened this far, you've already been spoiled on stuff. So it lets you turn in all the other masks that you've collected, and you get this Fierce Deity mask, and it turns you into this super powered up version of Link, and you get this awesome sword that can shoot beams out of it, and it's a very cool final boss fight because it's 2 ultra powerful masks against each other, and one's good and one's evil. So it's that's crazy. Definitely one of the best moments of the game. It just feels so cool to get to finally put that mask on.
Mm-hmm. I want to get into the songs a little bit. I know this is a bit of a jump in topics, but I was kind of thinking about the songs in this game. I will say, the songs you play on the Ocarina are both good in each game. I will say I feel like a lot more more songs are used more frequently in this game compared to Ocarina of Time, but I don't know what to say here, because it's I feel like Ocarina of Time does a better job at more unique songs and more memorable ones, because the temple songs that warp you to the entry to the temples in Ocarina of Time are very memorable, very cool, and very unique. Whereas in Majora's Mask, you have the songs that either manipulate time or allow you to fast travel. and they're definitely unique and stuff, but I wouldn't say they're as unique and memorable as like the Ocarina of Time ones, but you get to use them more often, so it makes the songs feel more impactful in their purpose. I feel like at least there's more ones that feel that way, just because there's like, I don't know, there's more functions in regards to like time and like movement and stuff that the songs get more usage.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, like the songs in this game I feel like are used more often. Ocarina of Time may have more memorable and unique ones, but I feel like there are some songs that get more time in the spotlight in Majora's Mask, you know?
Yeah. And it's also cool that they reused some of the songs, but they also modified them a little bit. So, like, there's the Song of Time, which was in Ocarina of Time, but they made it so that if you play it twice, each note twice in that song, it'll speed up time and let you go forward to whatever. I'm not sure. I think in the Nintendo 64 version, you have to just go straight to either night or the next morning. In the 3DS version, you can actually pick a specific hour, but I could just not be remembering right. I don't know. But then there's also the inverted Song of Time where you play it backwards and it slows down time, which really helps you a lot to get a lot more done in a cycle than if you weren't going to play it. So it's cool because it like rewards people that have already played the first game by adding on.
I will be completely honest with you. I think the first time I played this Majora's Mask on the 3DS, I think there's a lot of stuff I skipped over because, like, you know, being the man that I am, I typically when we play games, I ask Bennett for a lot of help on stuff because I am, you know, he's typically smarter at the stuff than I am. But he had played Majora's Mask before me, of course, and I remember playing the game for the first time. And I think I was, like, asking about time going too quick or something, and I was concerned about it. So I just asked you what I do, and then I think you told me how to play it. Because in the game, you don't have to learn what the song is to be able to play it. Some of the songs you can just play, and it works. Like, usually in a lot of the songs in Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, you have to learn first. But there are songs in Majora's Mask you can just play to use. And I think I learned the inverted Song of Time from you and just never learned it legitimately. I could be wrong. But, like,
I don't know how you do learn it. Maybe the scarecrows tell you.
I think you told me that the scarecrows do it, but I don't think I have legitimately, like, gone. I don't think I learned that information by going to the scarecrow and, like, talking to him or whatever. I think I like skipped that part of the game. Not that you're gonna miss much. I don't think there's, like, a ton of story you're missing or, like, side quests or something like that. I think you literally just talk to a guy and he tells you. So I don't think you're missing a lot, but yeah, I think I remember skipping over that part and just not, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's cool. Like, you don't have to unlock that song. You just know it, but, like, you don't know it as the person playing the game. But it's, like, available immediately when you get your ocarina back. And so if you already know about it, you can just use it, which is cool. And I think that's also another thing about these older games that's really cool is they didn't hold your hand so much. Like, people would figure things out, and it was very satisfying and rewarding to find that stuff because not everybody just knew about it immediately, and the game wasn't telling you, like, go here in such specific ways. You had to explore and figure it out.
I also, like... Yeah, I think it's very nice that the game didn't handhold you, and it's also... I also thought about this, which is kind of cool. I feel like Majora's Mask, like, has a good design of, like, locking some songs that you can't just play right off the bat, because, like, there's the different, like, temple songs you use to, like, access the temples throughout the game. There's 4 different temples, I think, and you need a song for each one. And you can't just go to the temple and, play a song, because first of all, you need, like, the abilities from certain masks and stuff, but, like, even if you get there, if you try to play the temple entry songs with, like, regular Link and the Ocarina, it doesn't work, because each transformation mask, like the Deku mask, the Zora mask, and the Goron mask, each one, like, when you transform, Link's instrument turns into something else. And so, like, there's the Sonata of Awakening you play as Deku Link with, like, the Deku pipes, I think is what they are. and like you need that instrument to be able to play that correctly, otherwise the temple won't recognize that you're doing that. And I think that's so cool because it's not like the game's like, yeah, you can't play this just cuz. It's like you need this instrument and you need this mask to do this. And I feel like that's such a good way of locking it behind something, because it's not just like, oh yeah, you can't do that for no reason. It's like, yeah, you need, for like understanding the game and like why it works. Yeah, like for understanding why the game works, like how the story is and like how the world works and like what goes on. It's like, yeah, you need the specific instruments. It's just a cool way to do that.
Yeah, it's just a very creative game overall. And I feel like a lot of games these days could really take a lesson from it because, like I said before, you gotta go for quality over quantity. Both would be good, but I'd much prefer quality. Just a shorter experience that's just packed with, good stuff that you want to play again, even if you played it 10 times. That's so much better than just hours of exploring a big empty world.
Yeah.
That's just not as interesting.
I don't know if it's possible to get I mean, if it is, it's pretty dang infrequent and pretty dang hard for the company, I feel like. But I almost feel like if you, like, try to go for both, you kind of sacrifice the, like, quality of each, if that makes sense. Like, the quality of the quality and the quality of, like, quantity, I don't know how to put that, but, like, basically you sacrifice... You sacrifice something from each if you're trying to go for both. I feel like it can be done where both are extremely good. It just takes a lot of effort and it's hard to do. But I feel like you almost like want to prioritize quality over quantity, because even if the game is short, like, yeah, if it's a good game and it ends really quickly, it's like, man, that's so sad. I wanted to keep playing, But that's part of the reason why it makes it so good. Like, it came to an end and it's sad, but at the same time it's like, I feel like games that extend on too long don't have that and therefore suffer. Because, like...
Yeah, if you get to the end of a game and you're like, finally, that's over, that's probably not a good sign.
It's almost, like, weird that the statement of, it's finally over, isn't as satisfying as, oh, it's already over. It's like... That's kind of how these games feel. It's like, they're shorter, sure, they're not going to last that long, but when you get to the end, it's like, man... It's kind of sad that I already played through it. Like, I really enjoyed playing that. Whereas, like, in open world games and stuff, it's like, okay, my chores list is over, I'm done. It's like, I feel like games are often better in a shorter time, like, with a shorter time frame, just because everything in that short period of time, which is exemplified in these games, like, you can see it in these games, is so much more quality driven, like, in-depth. There's so much story to it. Like, everything feels so lively and filled with personality compared to open world games where you can travel for miles and there's an area without personality. There's characters that don't really have... that are, basically generic. It's just... I feel like quantity can make a game suffer so much, even if a game is, like... even if you want to make it longer. I don't know. I feel like quality is so much more important. No matter what.
Yeah, I think so too. So, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'm sure we could both keep talking about this game for 3 more hours or more.
But that could probably happen with each and every one of these games that we talk about.
Yeah, that's true. Someday we'll get to a game that we actually don't think is one of the best games of all time, but...
like, I could honestly... I could probably go back and rant about Tarkov again, but I don't know.
Yeah,
every single thing I could probably do that, but... Yeah.
But anyway, it's probably no surprise that we both very much recommend this game on whatever system you have that can play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The 3DS version has some issues, but I still think it's great. It's nice to have the updated graphics. And there is even a patch for it if you have custom firmware on your 3DS that will make it more like the original game. I'd recommend that if you can do it, but if not, you'll still have fun. Anything else you want to say about the game?
I mean, I just... not really. I mean, just people who are curious to try it, if you can, I would try it, because it's like... both of these games, we probably said it in Ocarina of Time, but yeah, try both of these games, because not only are they connected, but they are, like, really good examples to show, like, what good video games are. And I mean, there are plenty good modern video games, but I feel like these video games are on like another level that you just don't see nowadays. So if you can, try them because they are just so good and such wonderful single player experiences when it comes to video games. And also, I wanted to say thank you everybody for watching. It was or not watching, sorry. Thank everybody for listening. It's always a pleasure to do these, and we hope you guys enjoy them.
Yes, thank you for listening, everybody. On whatever platform you're listening on, we would very much appreciate if you're able to give a follow, a review, a like, whatever it may be. And please leave your fan comments and questions, whatever you have to say. If it's about gaming or grubbing or anything else, feel free to leave it. We might even bring it up in an episode. You can email us at gamesandgrubpod@gmail.com, or you can find us at gamesandgrubpod on X and Instagram. And with that, I just want to thank you again for listening. Keep gaming and keep grubbing, everybody.